This week, our topic is truth. And you would think that the concept of truth would be one of the easiest ones for us to talk about because the truth is the truth. And things that are untrue are untrue. However, in the last decade, we have found ourselves in a place where people use other words or concepts very loosely. We've even heard leaders in our country use the word, using alternative facts. Well, there are not alternative facts. The facts are the facts and they lead to the truth. So creating alternative facts so that you can make something untrue true just does not work. A while back on Facebook, there was this little cartoon that had an intent of getting people to understand other people's perspectives. And so these two people had walked up to a number on the ground. And one of them, looking at the number from their perspective, said, "It's a 6." And this person is looking and said, "No, it's a 9." And so the conversation, or the purpose of this cartoon, was to show that both things could be true. And I got into some arguments with people. One time, like sometimes you're on Facebook and you make a comment and then it just blows up. Well, that's what happened here. I made a comment and said, yes, they both have a different perspective. This person thinks it's a 6. This person thinks it's a 9. But there is, in fact, a truth there. Someone made that number and placed it there on the ground. And so that person either created a 6 to put on the ground or they created a 9. Now, based on this perspective and this perspective, they didn't have enough information to know which it was. That does not mean that there's not a truth, because there's a disagreement and there's not enough information to know what the truth is. That's a different situation. Okay? There are perspectives. From this perspective, that's a number 6. From this perspective, that's a number 9. Well, just because there are two different perspectives and there was no way for these two individuals to prove what it is, does not mean that it is not either a 6 or a 9, because someone made it and put it on the ground to be a 6 or a 9. Okay. I'm not really even talking about that in our conversation on truth today. There is truth. Truth is not subjective. Here's why this is so important. It is important because we have politicians who create their own statements that they call truth that are not, in fact, truth. And they are human beings that are gullible, that will hear something good and then believe anything they say. Anything they're dishing out, they'll gobble it up. And because we have so many people that are gullible, are not sophisticated enough to use their own eyes, their own ears, and their own brains to weed through all of this mess and identify what the real truth is, we have found ourselves in a huge, horrible mess politically in our country, because the truth no longer exists in our political arena. Another untruth that has gone around is, I hear people who claim to be Christian, when confronted with their support of someone I would consider as an antichrist, and when they're confronted with, well, he lies all the time, they come back with, all politicians lie all the time. So a new untruth that's going around is that all of the politicians are bad, and it doesn't matter that this one lies because they all lie. That is also not true. We may have lots of evidence that shows a lot of politicians lie, but that doesn't mean we have to give up looking for actual truth. Actual truth matters. I would even go so far as to say I would like there to be some accountability for people that are campaigning. I would like there to be some accountability for the media. I would like them to flash up on the screen, that's a lie, just like on the Jerry Springer show. You know, I would like for none of the political things to be broadcast live. They should all be videotaped the day before, and there should be a team of people that evaluate everything they say. Then play it in its entirety. But then scrolling up here, this statement is found to be a lie. This statement is found to be a lie. The other thought I had was when there is a debate, there should be a team of 4 impartial people, 2 leaning one way, 2 leaning the other way, and a team of 4 people who are listening to the candidate's response. And if what they said is a lie, they're to push the lie button. And if any time when 3 out of 4 of those push the lie button, they should get a noticeable electric shock. Not enough to kill them or hurt them, but enough that we can tell they just were found in a lie. There has to be some accountability so that the gullible, the ignorant, the unsophisticated voter can actually have someone they can trust letting them know what the truths are and what the lies are, because they don't know. They don't know. There's massive amount of support for current political candidates and current political office holders who are the furthest thing from honest that we've ever had in our history. And 49.6% of the voters voted for this person again. I am completely baffled as to how this could happen. It happens because truth doesn't matter. And truth does matter. So when we live in a society where truth no longer matters, we don't have truth anymore. We can't live without truth. We can't live without truth and untruth. We have to know the difference. And we have to hold our candidates and our politicians to that level. They cannot be allowed to lie. Period. And I don't know how we're going to make that happen, but they cannot be allowed to lie. And the number one reason for that is a lot of the people who vote and cast their ballots don't know the difference, or they're not able to determine the difference. It goes beyond my comprehension how this could happen, especially when someone so blatantly lies. When the people on their behalf say, well, using alternative facts, that says, well, if we don't take the truths and we just talk about the things that aren't really true or the things that support our lie, then we'll be okay. That's not okay. Truth is a concept. Truth does matter. We must have ways of determining what is true and what's not true. If we don't want to zap or have flashing lights on the screen when a politician is speaking, this is a lie, maybe we could have a green thing that says, that's true, that's true, that's true. And anytime they say something's not true, don't put the truth thing. We have to have ways of letting people know what's true and false. And the way to do that is not to have all of the Republicans judge their Republican candidate on whether what they're saying is true or false, or having only Republicans telling us what the Democrats say is true or false, or having only Democrats telling us what the Democrat says is true or false, or only Democrats telling us what the Republican says is true or false. We must have a team of 4, 2 leaning Democrat, 2 leaning Republican, preferably centrist people, that as a team evaluate everything that is said. And if 3 out of 4 of them agree that something is a lie, then that must be communicated to the people. Okay, I didn't want this podcast to be political, but based on what's happened in the last decade and specifically this week, although this will be broadcast on my podcast in a week to come, I didn't know any other way to talk about truth today other than pointing out the hypocrisy of our political arena and the hypocrisy of people who claim to be a Christian being all excited that we have a Christian president who loves Jesus, and there's absolutely nothing Christian. There's no evidence. In fact, there's lots of counter evidence that this person is more likely the Antichrist. They don't stand for anything that Jesus stood for. In fact, they are against anything that Jesus actually spoke about and taught and modeled. It is extremely clear. It is so clear, I don't understand how anyone could not see it. I don't understand. We have to have truth. Truth matters. There is a real truth. And there are real things that are not true. And sometimes it might be perspective, where this person thinks that's a 6, this person thinks that's a 9, but they don't have all the information to determine what it is. But that is not the case for most of the situations where we are battling truth and untruth, the lies, the deceit, the cheating, the confusion that is purposefully perpetuated upon the citizens of a state or a country or the world. Just because someone says something doesn't mean that that is the truth. There is truth, and there are lies. There's anger, there's hurt, there's mistreatment of some people, and the number one weapon used against anyone that we hate or want to get rid of, or we want to squash, or get out of our sight, get out of our society, the number one weapon is lies. Tell enough lies about those people so we get more people to not like them. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the gays or the trans or the immigrants or the brown people or the pink people or the orange people. I knew I had on my schedule to make a video today, and I knew the topic was truth. And I will tell you, all day yesterday, I said, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. We've had snow in Houston. It's supposed to be melting today. We had inauguration this week. We had Martin Luther King Day this week. Had a friend of mine die last week. Some other battles this week. Some of them are within me, dealing with all of that. I really didn't want to do this video today. It will come out next Monday or the Monday after. I'll have to look on my schedule and see when was the podcast on truth due. But I knew today was the day that I need to videotape that, and I did not want to do it. That says a lot. The podcast that should be the easiest to make, just talking about truth, should be universally accepted. And it's not. It's not. I've even had disagreements with family members because they accused me of not allowing them to have their opinion. And I had to clarify to them that if your opinion is based on lies or is perpetuating a lie, then that cannot be an opinion with which you can maintain or sustain. That is not an opinion. It is, in fact, a lie. So you can't have an opinion that a lie is true. You just can't. You might have a belief in something that is untrue, but that is not an opinion. We cannot allow even our politicians to take their opinions and perpetuate them as truth. We cannot allow our churches to perpetuate lies as truths. We cannot allow our leaders, our preachers, our teachers to perpetuate lies as truths, because there is, in fact, truth, and truth does exist. We just have to instill in our people the ability to use their eyes, their ears, and their brains, and their discernment. The number one prayer that our nation needs to have right now in this moment, right now in our churches, right now in our politics, is that God would gift every human being with an unlimited supply of discernment. You have to be able to discern what is true and what is a lie. You cannot be tricked. You can't say, oh, I didn't hear that to someone else. That's in my own mind. But then you are quoting the talking points of the enemy. You can't do that. There's a scripture that says you cannot serve both God and manna. Now, in that scripture, we kind of loosely say they're talking about you cannot serve God and money. But in reality, money in that context was about evil or putting yourself first, telling lies because that will help you financially. You cannot serve God and a politician. Any politician. Even a politician that I like and support. I can't serve them over God. You can't. When you get to the place where you raise a politician up like they are a god, or like you're saying God called this person to bring all of their lies to the front and rule our country in lies and squashing and hurting other people, there you have the Antichrist, the opposite of anything that is Christian. My number one goal in restarting a podcast this year was to keep politics out of it. I could not do that today. In the content of this podcast, is it true? Yes. What I have said is true. Does it need to be said now? Yes, it needs to be said now. Does it need to be said by me? Yes, it does need to be said by me based on the podcast and my book that came out saying sometimes you have to stir the pot. Yeah, so this needs to be said by me. And does it need to be said by me now? And I think it does. I think I left one out. Is it true? Yes. Does it need to be said? Yes. Does it need to be said by me? Yes. Does it need to be said now? Yes. Confronting truth has to happen every day of every moment. Whether you're by yourself and you're confronting truth for yourself, or you're confronting truth for others. Truth has to matter. Truth is not an opinion. Truth is truth. Truth is truth. When we are told to have compassion and mercy, because Jesus taught us that, Jesus preached that in the Sermon on the Mount. When you tell your political leader, please have compassion and mercy, you can't come back to the person and say, I want that person on the deportation list because they told our political leaders they need to have compassion and mercy. Are you kidding me? Shouldn't we tell all of our leaders, please have compassion and mercy? Didn't Jesus say, please have compassion and mercy? Shouldn't our churches say, please have compassion and mercy? Shouldn't our legislators and our politicians say, please have compassion and mercy? Shouldn't our citizens say, please have compassion and mercy? You can't listen to lies and then believe those lies, or then say, well, everybody lies, so he's okay that he lies. Cheats, rapes, steals. I need a conclusion for this podcast, and I'm not sure what it is other than what I've said over and over and over. In fact, while I'm editing this, I'll probably edit this all. I could edit this all down to just like a couple of sentences and have the shortest podcast ever. Truth matters. Truth is not an opinion. You have to be able to know the truth. You have to be able to discern truth. Use your eyes, your ears, and your brain. And someone ever tells you don't believe what you see or hear, if you're seeing and hearing from the person who's trying to deceive you, boy, you got a problem. Immediately when someone is trying to tell you what you see or hear when you already saw or heard it, that is reason enough to stop and run away from that person. You know, there's a scripture that says, flee from the very sight of evil. I'm now looking forward to recording the next podcast because I did not want to do this one, but I thought it would not be truthful for me to skip to this week's topic of truth, which was on the agenda before the events of this week took place. In fact, in this order, it was on the agenda even before the election in November took place. I could not honestly skip this. Thank you for watching my podcast. Tune in for the next one. Go back and watch the previous ones as well. I don't want you to think that all of my podcasts are like this one. But if you appreciate this cerebral, intellectual, stimulating conversation, even if it's one-sided, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing this information. I appreciate you going and looking at previous podcasts and coming back to watch podcasts after this.